All right, let's just start right now. Why not? Okay, we're joined by Coach Peter Fazekas. How you doing, Peter?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Now, first and foremost, congratulations to you and Mateo, of course, on a tremendous fight at Cage Fury Fighting Championships, number 95. He fought against a very tough Garrett Armfield, and he showed a great fight, and Vogel showed a lot of heart. And I just want to hear from your perspective as the coach. I want to hear your insight on the fight, round by round, actually before even the fight began, and you can lead us through. So the first question I want to ask, overall, how was this experience for you and for Mateo?
Oh, well, the whole COVID thing has put a twist on it, obviously. So it's been it was an interesting journey just to get there and then get home. We'll talk about that more after, obviously. But yeah, I know we everything, like as far as like the camp leading up to it, was like perfect. He was in amazing shape. There was like, couldn't ask for a better preparation, and he looked sharp and strong and everything was going great. And we got down there. It was unfortunately due to uncontrollable circumstances, Jeff wasn't with us, but so it was just me and Mateo heading down there. And but we had friends that we linked up with down there with George Gurgel, and he helped us out in helping Mateo warm up and all that. But yeah, it was obviously a big fight for Mateo, and there was a lot of pressure, obviously, because this is probably one of his toughest opponents yet. And but we like that matchup, like for Mateo, is that striker versus grappler. We love that matchup all day. You know what I mean? Mateo's tough, so even if he takes a little bit of a licking, he's going to get a hold of them eventually, and then bring it to his world, right? And it's kind of it was similar to the Lavoie fight a little bit in that way, like where the first round was a little bit dicey, and there was just like he took a little bit of damage, nothing like bad. Honestly, it looked much worse than it really was. Like he got punched in the nose early on, so there's a lot of blood, but really he was like, it wasn't like he was rocked like KO style. He just was taking a lot of shots, and the blood made it look messy, so it looked a lot worse than it was. And he was a bit fatigued too, in that the first round, and that's kind of Mateo a little bit in general. He comes out, he kind of does better as the match progresses, like initially kind of has to get going a little bit. And for a lot of fighters, they have to take a little bit of punishment before they wake up and start going at them. You know what I mean?
For sure. He made, and he mentioned, I spoke with him before his fight, interviewed him, that is, and he said he wanted to make a statement. But what does this fight mean for you currently in your path to greatness?
Is a chance. It's not a. I don't like to think about what's at stake. That's not what it is for me. It's not something that's at stake. It's something that I have a chance to do. It's an opportunity to see. It's a chance to show that I belong with the best in the world. It's my chance to showcase. This is what we've been looking forward to. This is what we work hard for. So rather than what's at stake, I say, what's it a chance for? It's an opportunity to show where I am now and to prove that I belong there with the best in the world. Make a statement.
Sorry?
Make a statement.
Make a statement. Okay. And he made quite the loud statement, and I think anyone who watched the fight would certainly agree. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that with Mateo too, he's very, very proud guy, and he wanted to stand with this guy a little bit. And Garrett's been boxing since he was like 8 years old, so he's like Mateo, kind of like opposite spectrum though. Like Mateo's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was a kid. This guy's been doing boxing since he was a kid. So Mateo tried to take it to him in his world, and that's kind of Mateo, looking for the kill. He wanted to go out there and prove his striking a little bit. And, he did catch him with some shots and stuff, but obviously we know Mateo's strong suit is the grappling, but he's evolving very well as a striker too. And, the first round, he was feeling a little bit rough before the fight too. Like he was having a little bit of stomach issues before the match. So he came out a little bit slower than he wanted to, but just things we know to improve on for the next one. And definitely, learned a lot from that first round in terms of like striking and playing the range more and not going in the pocket and banging so much. You know what I mean? Especially with a super skilled boxer like Garrett. So
Now,
Yeah.
actually, just before the fight started, you mentioned he had a stomach issue. Beyond that, were there any other things at play? Where was his mind at? Was he
Honestly, his
focused? Was he
mind,
nervous?
yeah, he seemed very focused. Everything was good. Just he was battling with a little bit of a stomach, like he had a little bit of a stomach issue. I think just from the bounce back, like from the weight cut. But otherwise, though, he was sharp and mentally super on point. And yeah, it was just that first round was a tough one, but and he had a moment right off the bat where he took him down and he got to side control, but he just wasn't able to stabilize the position. I feel like had Mateo capitalized on that moment, he would have finished the fight within like the first couple minutes right there. I think he would have got mount, he would have got his back and played his classic like mount to back game, working the arm triangle and the rear naked. And this is like how he finishes everybody in the gym, and he's a beast. He gets anyone's back. Like I haven't seen anyone, in training or anywhere where he gets their back and he doesn't finish them. You know what I mean? He's very good on the back when it comes to finishing with rear naked choke, and especially in the gi with his gi chokes, he's like deadly on the back. So I have no doubt if he gets those positions even early on, like with James Clark, his first fight, he got that position early and kept it, and it was the end from there pretty much. So.
Right. And what sort of advice did you give him leading into this fight? What were your
We were trying to, like, obviously Crew Jeff is a striking coach, so I don't want to speak too much on that end of it, but the game was to play the kicks a little bit, play the range, kind of get Garrett to move in and try to strike and close in on Mateo to make it a little bit easier to get a hold of the takedown instead of just rushing for the takedown. Kind of in some of his past fights, he was kind of moving forward into the takedowns a lot, so the people were able to kind of move and get away from him a little bit. So this time we were going to try to kind of coax Garrett into kind of coming closer with some outside range fighting, and then have him box and get close to Mateo for the takedown. So,
right. And I mean, by the end of the first round, I think Mateo had about 6 attempted takedowns. He managed to secure one significant one, 3 minutes and 50 seconds into the first round. And I think at that point, it was a big game changer in terms of the energy, because you could tell, at least as a spectator, you could tell that Garrett Armfield was not his. I'm sure he has a great ground game, but you could tell that he was a kind of somewhat of a fish out of water. He managed to escape, but even
that's not nothing against Garrett too. Like Mateo makes very strong grapplers look like that too, So
right.
Yeah. But,
so can you, on that note, can you speak to us as his grappling coach? And I think you alluded to it before. Kind of elaborate on his grappling approach, his no-gi grappling for MMA.
Yeah, so I've been building Mateo for a long time, and he kind of shares a lot of my tactics and my game that I play, and I'm super proud to have him out there representing and showing my jiu-jitsu a little bit too. But he has his own take on things. We're different physically, right? But we both I imparted on him like a very submission style approach. Like we attack like crazy from everywhere, from guard, constant submission attacks. We're always busy. We're not really ever stalling and just holding out in positions. And it's a lot of attacks and pressure and kind of getting the person into a frantic state and then finding the submission when they're scrambling away from us, right? And where Mateo is different than me is he brings like a very strong wrestling game to the approach, where I'm more of like a bottom guard player, and I get to top from bottom. He has like a very, very dynamic wrestling game and very, very strong top pressure as of a wrestler, right? But he has a crazy bottom game too. So Mateo is like extremely dynamic in what he can do, because he's pretty much dangerous in every aspect of the grappling, right? There's not anywhere he's weak, right? He's got a good guard, he's got good takedowns, and he's sick on top, good finishes. But with Mateo and me, we kind of pressure you with positional transitions and corner you into a situation where you kind of have to either give a bad answer or another bad answer. You know what I mean? Like we corner you off till you have only bad responses left, and then we're going to capitalize on that, right?
So, right. And as far as the takedown, as far as grappling aspect, is it 100% wrestling based, or is there some, as far as the no-gi aspect, is there other sort of methodology?
His takedowns are mainly wrestling. Like he works with his wrestling coach Chris at National Capital Wrestling Club. So a lot of his wrestling is actually like actual proper like wrestling.
Right.
And not like, jiu-jitsu style takedowns and stuff where, obviously he knows that stuff too, but he's working with like sport wrestlers, and he's getting like all like Chris is a super knowledgeable coach and has worked with him, and he's improved so much working with him. And it's very much, added like to the jiu-jitsu grappling, you know what I mean? It's been a
Right.
great addition to his game.
Now, Peter, as the coach, you're the grappling coach, and you're there in the corner. You're watching this fight, and you're seeing Mateo making quite the statement as far as willing to engage in the stand-up right from the get-go, continuously throughout the fight. Even though he took some very, at moments it almost looked like it was going to end at one point, but he managed to go the distance there and recover and still continuously move forward. The question I have for you: what did you think of his willingness to just engage and fight and bring the striking to a striker? As the grappling coach, what was one of the...
Obviously, I was like screaming to go for the takedown for the most part. I was trying to get him to work the takedown in, but I know Mateo too, and he's very confident, like, in his head. And this is a good thing too. In his head, he truly believes he can submit, he can knock out anybody in front of him. And he's tough as nails. So, like, even if he looks like he's eating shots, he's still in that, and he's still trying to kill you. You know what I mean? So I have faith in him as far as his, ability is fighting and taking damage and everything too. But obviously if you could hear me on the corner, there was a lot of calls for takedowns when he was striking. But
I think you clapped when he took him down, right?
I was probably screaming and clapping and going insane on the side. But the first takedown was good, but then that second takedown. Here. So we were talking a lot about working more upper body wrestling for this one because Garrett had a really good takedown defense, like a shot defense. Like he was very like seems like what he'd worked with a lot was a lot of like, people trying to shoot for doubles and singles on him, and he has quick hips, like getting his hips back. So the game plan was work more upper body clinch work and get the takedown from there, like he did with that first takedown where he slammed him real good.
Right.
But then Garrett was being really slippery with that upper body work. He was having a hard time kind of getting his connection, working the upper body clinch. And then I started screaming for that single because he's got a really, really good single leg. And I'm like, get the single, pick the leg, because like typically with Mateo, what'll happen is he gets that single and he's like a bulldog on that single. And then they turn and try to rip away and they show their back to him. Right. So we don't really, the single isn't really the goal. The single is to get them to react to the single. And then turn, show their back so you can get that back body lock control. And that's where he got that last takedown. He drags you down. And if you posture up, then he knocks you backwards, like the first takedown he did, right? He has a very strong game when he's got his hands locked around your waist. And it's either he's dragging you forward or he's going to knock you back when you go back to the redirection, right?
Now, what did you think of the referee deducting 1 point due to the second, his mouthpiece came out twice?
Yeah. I understand why, like, he deducted it, but like, when it happened, when that second one happened, he wasn't, it wasn't from striking going on. You know what I mean? It was in the middle of like a grappling exchange.
Right.
Right. So, like, it wasn't like he was in danger from getting knocked out or something and spit out his mouth guard. So that's I wouldn't have deducted a point for that reason. It was clearly like it popped out in the middle of the grappling,
What did you tell him at the end of sorry to interrupt, what did you tell him at the end of the first round, Peter? What was your advice leading into
pretty much what I was saying there? I was trying to tell him to stop staying in the middle and boxing with him and to get out and start working his kicks more, because he was landing some nice kicks. Like he landed a couple head kicks or not landed, but like connected a little bit with some head kicks and some leg kicks. And I'm like, work the outside, work your kicks, stop boxing in the pocket with him, because he's hitting you too much from the boxing, and then working that single leg and start going after the leg like, your bread and butter, and let's get him to the ground, But I was definitely telling him to get out of the pocket with him and start working like his range, a little bit, like working his kicks, his teeps, his head kicks, because he's very good with those. So.
Right. And even right from the get-go of round number 2, he started, fully striking. And have you watched? I'm assuming you watched the replay or whatever.
Oh yeah, we watched it many times. Yeah.
What did you think of the commentary throughout?
I'm a real not big fan of CM Punk, so, and his commentary. No, like he gave Matara really bad commentary too. Just he seems a little bit uneducated, and I don't think he knows what he's really talking about. So I was a little bit pissed off with CM Punk and his commentary, to be honest. But
I agree with you on that. I was a little disappointed. It
a
almost
little bit of hate on the Canadian guys. I don't know what it is.
yeah, it's bizarre because usually like there has to be an interplay because it seemed there has to be a back and forth where there is if you're going I don't want to say they were biased. I'm not saying they were biased, but they seem to kind of elaborate more on Garrett. Like if you look at the fact that Mateo had 6 attempted takedowns, was fully engaging in the striking by the end of the round, notwithstanding the fact that yes, okay, a point was deducted. To me, it seemed awkward. There was no. Usually, when you have commentary, if you're gonna have you need some balance here and there. Is all.
I felt like with him and Matar's fights at CFFC, they were both like one-sided commentaries for sure.
Right. But, no, it's bizarre. But it's funny because leading into the second round, the dynamic completely. It was as if they were surprised as to what happened. The fans watching, I don't think, were surprised. What were your thoughts there right from the get-go in round number 2 when he secured the takedown? At that point, what were you thinking?
I knew it was done. I was like, as soon as he put him down with that body control. Like, so you can maybe hear me calling it out and stuff though, but like as soon as he dragged him down and he started to I saw he had the neck sunk before he even had the hooks in, which is something we were talking about before the fight. Like you get that position and you don't have hooks in yet, they're a little bit kind of guard down for the rear naked. Once the feet sink in, they get their defense up really quick, right? So I'm like, we were talking about it beforehand. We were actually watching a fight. I forget who it was, the Adriano kid from 1FC, the little Brazilian guy.
Right.
He like jumped the guy's back, threw in the rear naked. We were watching this before the fight, and I'm like, if you ever, this situation happens, you get the back, like throw that choke in without the hooks, and then put the hooks in later. And that was what happened. And then you can hear, like, as soon as he rolled him over, I'm like, body triangle. I'm like screaming body triangle like a maniac. He heard me and threw on the body triangle. And then once he has that, you're done. Like he started squeezing the body triangle and he just goes to town with the hand. And he's really relentless and ruthless with his attack at the neck with the rear naked. He's punching in the face as he's driving his arms through, and he's really good at that kind of thing. So once he got him down, he got the body triangle. I knew it was a wrap. There's like 3 minutes almost left, so I'm like, this guy's done,
Right. No, he made a huge statement there. What was the overall takeaway from you as the coach? As far as seeing Mateo fight in possibly seeing him fight his toughest opponent. Yet. Well, what's the takeaway for you guys as far as?
I think the plus side was it showed, that he's really resilient. He puts on a very exciting fight, regardless. Like, he goes out and bangs and goes to war. He's never afraid of anybody. And I think the takeaway from this was what we were surprised by with Garrett was the hand speed a little bit. He was like really quick with his punches. And I think I was talking to Mateo on the drive back a lot about this and just we want to try to, have him work with more smaller partners instead of a lot of the bigger guys in the gym. And I think that would help with that because I think he's used to like more power, slower punches a little bit, But yeah, just work on the boxing still. He's still evolving as a striker, but he's getting very good. Like in the gym, he gives everybody a hard time striking. Like he's going with like Matar and these guys who are like very, very good strikers. And he's holding his own and doing really good against everyone. So I think it was a good chance for him to get out and test himself a little bit, but obviously there's still some things to work on and with his hands. His kicks are awesome, and we got to just get working on the boxing a little bit more. Get him with some smaller partners to work that like hand speed and get used to because 135ers, right? There's not too many in the gym, so yeah.
Right. Was there any media at the event? I know we're in COVID time, but was there any opportunity to do any post-fight interviews after?
They only really did it with the main events, I think. I don't think they did it with the undercard, so he didn't really speak to anybody. I know that one of the commentators, I think, was the MMA Underground or Uncensored or whatever I forget the name of it. But yeah, one of the the big websites there was one of the commentators was CM Punk. But yeah, they didn't do any post talks.
Is there talk of any future events and having him involved fighting and competing?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're gonna want him back on. So, we'll wait and see what offers come up. But we have him under management with Sucker Punch, And so it's up to them to kind of work with the promoters and see what's up. But they're running a lot of shows over there, and we'd love to get him back on another one and fight as soon as possible, because I think that was another big thing too. He's coming off a bit of a layoff, like all these guys are, right? Like, the COVID year happened, and then we're into like almost another year now. So, he hasn't fought since the Siri fight, and that was a while ago now. And I think there was a little bit of ring rust that he needed to get off. Like, not even ring rust, but just kind of get his confidence back up with a fight. And I think the more consistent he fights, the better he'll look, So this was kind of like a big layoff return as well.
How was he feeling after the fight? I think you mentioned that he took some hits, and it looked like he was bleeding, and obviously.
Once he got cleaned up, and his lip just got a little damaged from some punches with the when his mouth guard came out, his lip got split a little bit, glued him up, and he was fine the same night. Next day we went to the Rocky stairs, and he murked me on the rock. I was trying to film him running up the stairs, and he blasted by. I couldn't even keep him on the camera. Wow. So he didn't look like he just had a fight the night before. He's bolting up the stairs and shadow boxing at the top. So he's a warrior, and he was fine. Like, it was more superficial damage, So his nose was fine. He just has a bit of a big nose, and it looked broken, but it was just cut at the top a little bit, and yeah, but his nose was fine. Just had a cut on the lip.
Right on. And as far as you competed, obviously locally here, what's the state? What are your plans down the road as far as jiu-jitsu?
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's too much right now, and it's right. I'd head out to Florida and compete out there with like the tournaments going on, but it's just the quarantine when I come back. Like, if our gyms are open here and I gotta be here, it really takes its toll on the gyms because I'm very needed, right? To be gone for not just like a week, but like 3 weeks minimum just to go compete somewhere. For me, it's not worth that amount of time gone. You know what I mean? It costs too much money to, for me to be gone that long, not just money wise to travel, but, the business, right? So I'm looking to compete locally, at least till they back off on the travel restrictions. You know what I mean? And I've talked to Rory a little bit with Quintet. He wants to try to do something end of the year or like, early next year. Wow. And so like his super fight show in Oakville there, the one I did not too long ago. And then also Aiden's talking about doing an ASG again. So I think he wants to do a little like lightweight Grand Prix, like black belt thing with myself and some of the guys. So I'm in on whatever is happening. I've been wanting to fight for, I was set to go compete in Rio right before COVID happened, and I was going to go do the Rio Open and go see Ted Day and train down there and everything. And it was all booked, and like 2 days before everything got canceled. And that's like right when COVID happened. So that was a real piss off, because I was like, 6 or 7 tournaments or matches, like straight wins in a row. And I was like, great shape, I'm still in good shape, ready to go. But yeah, this kind of sucks, the whole sideline. Everyone got sidelined. I feel bad for guys like Mateo, especially though. They're missing good years of their life right now, like where they could be fighting, So,
right. Just a few more questions. I appreciate your time here, Peter. Like, you're second degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, yeah?
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, it's great to see a black belt, a second degree black belt out there fighting and competing. This is pre-COVID, of course. What motivates you to keep training and fighting? Because, and I ask this because not everyone who attains that rank, even brown or black, necessarily, I don't know, I'm generalizing here, but not everyone has that ambition to compete anymore. Maybe ambition is not the right word, but what is it with what makes you want to compete?
Well, for me, there's a few big factors. Like, one of the less that, like, obviously one of the driving motives for me was like my whole time coming up in jiu-jitsu, my big dream was to fight at black belt and fight the best people around, because I just want to show my level and show my skill. But that kind of goes back to like my main reason why I compete. And that's like, for the reputation of the gyms, for, lighting a fire under my guys' asses. So they see me out there killing it. And, I'm kind of leading by example. And I want them to be proud of me as their professor. You know what I mean? I want to go out there and prove to them that, they're with the right person. I'm showing them, battle tested jiu-jitsu. Everything I do is stuff I go out and compete and use when I'm out there and have put to work. And I just like honestly making my students proud, man. That's probably my biggest motivation. Yeah, like I don't get Mateo fired up as crazy as when I fight, you know what I mean? So like for guys like that, they really, I think they look up to me a lot, and it makes them really happy to see me get out there, and it's good for the gym, it's good for them, and it's good for me to stay fit. And I want to I'm at the gym. I'm always the guy trying to train more than anybody in the gym and be the top dog in the gym. So I got to stay on point with guys like Mateo around, trying to kick my ass every day.
Has he been successful yet? Has he caught you?
We can't discuss this.
Fair enough, man.
You can ask him how it goes.
Where can we find you online if people have questions and want to reach out?
Best place is probably on my Instagram at Fazekas BJJ, or on the New Era page as well, like at New Era Combat Sports. And I'm always on social media, and I'm pretty active on there, posting stuff. And yeah, man, feel free to hit me up if you want to discuss anything or have any questions.
Awesome, man. Peter, thank you very much for your time, and have a good night, and good luck with the rest of your quarantine. And hopefully once this is over, you'll be able to more competitions locally will happen for jiu-jitsu and other combat sports. I think everyone is looking forward to that. So all the best to you.
Thanks, buddy.